regular thing. Came for the ring, you know what I mean. I shoot my shot and it's clean. This for my city, yeah, this for my team. If you talking, it's all to me nice. I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better do right, I'm a champion. This for my team. If you talking, it's all to me nice. I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better do right, I'm a champion.
Hello, everybody, and welcome inside a Wednesday episode of YSN Live. It is February 12th, 2025. You know what Wednesdays are all about. We're talking wrestling today. It's Wrestling Wednesdays. Gary Altizer will be with us very shortly, but we have a special guest to get to for Wrestling Wednesdays, and you know we could not let a season pass. It would be irresponsible to have this next guest from Poland, who has set the world on fire last year and has continued to raise the bar this year. From Poland, girls wrestling, it's Ella Thomas coming to us. Ella, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about another great season you're having in the wrestling program at Poland. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys for having me on here.
Of course, like I said, it'd kind of wild to have a wrestling season without a superstar like you on it. Let's talk about the way last year ended. You had a great, successful state run. Now you're coming into the next year where you have to kind of raise the bar and take the next steps. What's it been like preparing for this second year in high school and trying to live up to and then raise the bars from last year?
Well, last year, it wasn't really the outcome I expected to get. So I think I'm just working harder and have a better mentality to know, like, I'm ranked second now in the state, so I need to keep up the hard work to try to get that championship.
So you're telling us last year you weren't expecting to kind of end it the way you did and get to how far you got, and that was kind of a pleasant surprise for you, right?
Yeah.
So now you're going into this year. How much confidence did that give you, knowing that all the success you had last year? How much kind of confidence did you have coming into this year?
I think I had a lot of confidence. I mean, I had a bunch of tough tournaments, like tough competition that like maybe brought it down a little bit. But I think like I rebuilt that confidence and know that like maybe I could beat McKenna Craft this year.
What were some of the mindsets that you had coming into this season? You talked about how you had a better mindset and you feel like you started the season with a little bit of a more grounded, mindset into what you can be. So talk about some of the things that you focused on and some of the mental places where you were at the start of the season.
Well, I focused on like I don't know, kind of like just not letting my mentality bring me down, like not doubting myself, like.
No, we get it because like last year, like you said, like we've already talked about, it was one of those seasons where, why would you doubt yourself after the success you had last year? We're going to bring Gary on, Gary Altizer, our wrestling guru. Gary, welcome to the show, buddy. I know you've had some burning questions for Ella, and it is your turn. You're in the rotation. Well, what are some of the things that you wanted to ask her about this year?
Just wanted to know, has anything been different this year from last year? You got on the podium, you accomplished a lot of goals that you wanted to. Is there anything different for you, especially mentally?
I think I went to Ironman in Finley this year, and those are like tough competitions that I didn't have as much last year. So I think that like having some of those losses like really taught me that I'm not going to be the best walking in, but it could be a different outcome coming out at state.
Let's talk about the state run last year. What lessons do you think that taught you if you get back there again this year?
I think more on the mentality side, like don't doubt yourself, like walk in there with a strong mentality, I think, because last year it was definitely, I did not walk in with a strong mentality, and that's where it led me.
So is your goal to be at the top of the podium this season?
It is.
Good goal to have.
What do you? Yeah, no brainer, right? Yeah, of course. What are some of the things that are on your checklist of things you want to accomplish or things that you have to do to get to that goal? What are some things that you're still working on? You're trying to improve on.
I'm kind of just working on learning off of McKenna Craft, like watching her film, just doing all that just to know what I have to do to beat her or make it to the finals with her.
Has anything changed for you in the wrestling room this season? Do you think have you changed anything up, or is anything different this year than it was last year?
I mean, it's not much different, but I think I've definitely been working a lot harder this year and kind of got in the mindset that this is what you need to do and can't really mess around as much as I did last year. I feel like it was kind of fun in games last year, freshman year, not really knowing what high school's like, but this year it's really just like that set mentality that you can't mess up.
Let's talk about your coaching staff. It's a great one at Poland. Gary knows that better than almost anybody. He knows your coaches very well. What's it been like this year to be coached by them? What kind of things have they helped you with trying that mentality and trying to work harder this year?
Well, Jordan Beadle, he's been my coach since like 7th grade. So he's really taught me over these years. So like, I don't know, he's picked on me a bit, but he's taught me that like, you need to stay in the game. Like, can't be doing all this other stuff. Like, it comes down to one thing. And John Arnett, he likes to pick on me a lot, but he really just wants the best for me, and that's what they all do. So I do appreciate them a lot.
So what'd you do this off season? Did you do much off season work? Were you in freestyle? Were you in Greco? What did you do?
Yeah, so I wrestled freestyle and Greco this off season, and this was the first year I really competed. So it's definitely got me a lot better. I wrestled national duels for freestyle and Greco too. That was definitely a good look.
You know, you're spending so much time wrestling. You work on it. Even in the off season, you're out there, you're wrestling. Talk about how much the grind is and how you get through the grind and how you're able to just not burn out after so much wrestling and so much work into the sport.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard. It's hard at first, but when you get into that, like, you wanna succeed in that mentality, then like that's what you're gonna do if you work this hard.
So is your weight settled for what weight you plan on going at sectionals? Are you planning on moving, and tell me about your weight cut this year if you've had one.
No, I plan on going 100 for state and for sectionals, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I don't really cut much anymore. I think my big cut was my first tournament at Ironman, but ever since that, I've really stayed like a pound within. So
when we asked you about, the grind of wrestling and not wearing down, I also want to kind of develop on that because there's something that has to keep you driven, keep you motivated. Because I'm sure there are days in that stretch where you're not feeling it. Maybe you're not having the best day. You just don't want to do it, but you keep going. You keep driving through. What gives you that motivation? What gives you that fire to go on the days where you don't feel like doing it?
I think the want to succeed, like when you don't want to do anything, you're like kind of being lazy. I feel like you just put in your mind that if you're lazy, you're not going to succeed. Like my coach told me once that if you don't work as hard in practice, then you're going to have doubt on the mat. And I really took that into consideration.
So what's going to be different this year mentally? You were on the big stage, you did well, but you said yourself you didn't work as hard, and you maybe weren't as confident. What's going to be different this year?
I think this year I really have the mindset down that like I'm gonna beat it this year.
You're not the only one in that Poland wrestling room. You have a lot of great teammates that have also had successful seasons. Talk about how much you rely on the people with you and the teammates and how much they push you and encourage you and help you to succeed.
Yeah, I have a lot of great teammates. The girls team, they're very supportive of each other. We're all friends, so we do everything together. Yeah, they bring my mentality up a lot. They encourage me to work hard. Don't let other people discourage you. Like other people will talk, but yeah, they're great with that.
Has your girls' numbers grown since last season? You know, with your success, a little bit more attention?
Yeah, so we had 3 girls on the high school team last year, and I think this year we have about 6. So we're growing little by little. We're growing.
You know, with the success you've had, you have to be a kind of a role model to younger wrestlers that maybe aren't in high school yet that are looking up to, you know, what you guys are doing, especially what you're doing. What's that like to know that people are watching you, that they want to kind of emulate you, they want to be where you're at when they hit high school? What's that been like for you?
It feels great to know that that I'm the role model, because I recruited a lot of those girls, and even our high schoolers, they think that I'm the role model too, that they want to be like me. So that feels great to know.
So I always ask this, and last season, if I remember right, you gave us a really good answer, but I can't remember what it was. That post weigh-in meal, what is it? Is it different this year?
Last year I said it was pickles, but
Pickles, that's right. Yes.
sad to say I don't eat pickles after weigh-ins anymore.
What is
And
it
I'm
now?
I'm not gonna lie, I used to just grab a box of Uncrustables and just eat them all there, but recently I've been making pasta and eating that portions between matches, and it's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So
That's
no
a
more
good
pickles.
one to get quick carbs there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We went from pickles to pasta, but we're keeping the P in there, so that's good.
Yeah.
You know, we're staying with the alliteration. Well, we're talking about your teammates. Who's your drill partner this year? Has it changed with the elevated numbers of girls, or are you still drilling with the same person you were last year?
No, he's a lot bigger now. He's a lot bigger than me now. So I'm actually drilling with, he's in 8th grade, but he's a good wrestler. Michael Miller. It's kind of it's like a competition between us all the time. That's how we push each other. It's like, who's gonna win this, or I'm a better wrestler. That's how our mindset is with each other. So
That's a great way to get better. If your drilling partner and you are in competition with each other, you're not going to let each other slack every day. You're going to be all over it. Well, so with the postseason coming up now, are you just trying to get healthy, or are you trying to work on some, things that maybe you feel like you're weak in? What are you doing between now and sectionals?
I'm definitely doing both. I'm trying to stay healthy. There's a lot of injuries that I have to take care of right now. A lot of sickness going around, so just trying to stay healthy.
We gotta get the non-wrestling questions out of the way too, because you're a student athlete of Poland, and last year as a freshman you're kind of getting introduced to the classroom. But what's it been like now as a sophomore to transition into the next year, trying to study and be a good student? What's it been like for you in the classroom this year?
I'm not gonna lie, sophomore year has been hard. It's been rough, but I think it's going pretty well right now. Definitely a lot harder than freshman year, though.
What class is giving you the most trouble?
I think history. I'm not a big history person.
And then what's your favorite subject? What's the one that you're pretty good at? You don't have to work too hard to get the good grades in.
I think science. I like science. It's fun. So as long as it's entertaining, I have no problem in it.
Last question from me. Have you taken down your coaches yet this season? And if you did, tell me which one so that I can make fun of them.
I think I've taken down Jordan once.
All right.
Once this season.
Green light, Gary. Green light to
There it
get
is,
on his
yes.
case. Ella, we end these the same way. You know, you were on last year. We want to give you the time to kind of take the limelight off yourself a little bit and shine on the people in your life that support you, that are there for you. So I want to give you the time again to give out thank yous and shout outs to the people in your life that you think really deserve it.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my friends and family. My Uncle Joe, he definitely pushes me a lot, like gives me some good mentality, and like Coach Beadle, Jordan, and Courtney, and John Arnett. They push me a lot, and they want the best for me, and they're making me better. My drill partners, Michael Miller and Abby Torres Miller. They're great. Abby's she's a freshman. She's ranked 6th in the state, so she pushed me a lot. But all my friends.
All right, Ella, we want to thank you so much for coming on, talking to us. We love having you on. Good luck in the run to state. We hope you get there again, and we hope that you're top of the podium this time and able to maybe come back on, talk about a state championship a little bit, right? We'd love to have you back on to talk about that. Ella, once again, thank you. We love having you on, and we wish you the best of luck. We'll talk to you real soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Ella.
You got it. Ella Thomas from Poland, ranked number 2 in the state. And one of the things that I love, Gary, I know you came into it, a couple of questions in, but I love how just genuine it was, where she's like, hey, last year I did really good, but I wasn't expecting it, and I maybe didn't have the best mentality going into state. She still did awesome, for that being said. But now she's like, hey, that taught me how much I can do now if I'm taking it even more seriously and working even harder this year. Just imagine what she can accomplish now.
Yeah, absolutely. And her demeanor, you can see she's grown more confident in herself. Just the way that she answered the questions this year compared to last year, she's just more sure of herself. She had an amazing season. I was at the state tournament. I watched her, all of her matches. She was right there. Definitely belongs. If she's got a better mental state, she's got a great chance to be at the top of the podium.
Which is just awesome. And I think we have a lot of wrestlers that have that chance to make a run this year. And we're here talking about sectionals because we're right on the horizon of them. But Gary, before we talk about tournament time, I want to give you the chance to talk about the Buck Bailey, because we previewed it last week, and we know you had a very successful weekend down there in Wellsville with over 200 wrestlers, 21 schools, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right there?
And actually, we had one show up that wasn't expected, so it was 22.
22 schools.
Yeah.
But what a weekend it was for you. Just kind of recap it, some of the things that were highlights of it, and what were some of the takeaways from this weekend for you at the Buck Bailey?
It was a really amazing day. It went off without a hitch. We thought things through. We prepared as much as we could for every scenario because we had so many teams coming. And we had a really great turnout of volunteers. So that made it a lot smoother for everyone. We changed a little bit of things just about where we put teams, where we put fans, where we had parking, those kind of things. And they all went off great. Indian Valley won the tournament, and anybody that follows high school football knows that school has a lot of great athletes. So it was no surprise there. But, Minerva, other bigger schools were there. Boardman came, Liberty came. As far as the YSN schools go, United, Columbiana, Letonia, there was other teams like that. But it really was a great day of wrestling. It was really nice to see the stands absolutely packed the way they were, with people watching the tournament. And I know that we plan on having it again. And now that we know that we can run a tournament with that many teams and that many kids, that's what we plan on doing here from here on out, that second Saturday in February.
Did South Range show up? Because
yes,
I did the story, and they weren't on the list that I had. And then I saw them post on Facebook that they were at least sending they were going to the Buck Bailey, so I had to adjust it. But I was wondering, was that the team that you didn't expect?
No,
okay.
No, it wasn't. No. Yeah, South Range comes every year. They're really good about supporting us and the Buck Bailey. Yeah, Coach Frank, Jeremy, all them guys, they came. We had a lot of great food donated to us, and the South Range team made sure to take advantage of it. Their coaches were in that coaches room a lot. So it's great to have those guys, and we really appreciate that they've supported us really every single year that I've been a coach, they've made sure to send kids.
Who are some of the YSN wrestlers that you think really stood out from the YSN family at the Buck Bailey?
You know what? I'm going to pull up the results here, and I can just read them off. So Santino Slipkovich at 144, he was able to take the championship home. He beat Jason Savi from Minerva. Other wrestlers from the YSN area, Leland Mont, he was in the finals for us at 190. He came in a runner-up spot. Frank Quinlan at 113 for Boardman was in third place. Sam Viva at 126 was in third. Will Gunderson from United at 150 was in third. And we did have some fourth place. Joe Zaid from South Range at 175 was in fourth. Sean Thomas from Liberty at 165. And Luke Stevens, 144 for Liberty as well. Scott Leach, 132 was fourth for South Range. Antonio Catullo from Boardman at 126. Isaiah Payne at 120 from Boardman was in fourth place at 120. So there were a lot of YSN schools and wrestlers represented this weekend, and they did well.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you and what you've been able to do with Wellsville. And I know looking at all the posts, I'm thinking to myself, like, next year, wouldn't it be cool to, like, come down and like have a Wrestling Wednesday kind of live, maybe pre Buck Bailey in the gym or something? Like, my head started going and turning like, man, this would be really cool to try to do something with Wrestling Wednesday from Buck Bailey, since we're the host of the whole show. And you're obviously, that's the biggest weekend for you. But man, awesome job, Gary, as always, and awesome job to all the people in Wellsville that helped you guys. Is there anyone that you think really like deserves a big shout out to getting this weekend going?
I would say athletic director Kyle Exline and high school principal Dick Schilling. Those guys both worked right hand in hand with me, making sure that we got everything right. All three of us were there by 6:30 a.m. And we were all there late the night before on Friday, making sure things were good. Coach Schilling, he's been a big help this year. Kyle coming in as a new athletic director, he's dove in head first with all the athletics, but he's not necessarily, he even tell you he's not necessarily a wrestling guy because he's not been around the sport much, but he's trying to learn as much as he can about the sport. And he has, done anything that we've needed. And he's also went above and beyond and done some things that we needed, but we didn't even ask for. So he's been great. Both of those guys, Mr. Schilling and Mr. Exline, have been great, and I sincerely appreciate both of them.
All right, Gary, we have sectionals to talk about. I mean, it's tournament time. This is it. This is postseason. Well, I know the brackets are they out yet?
No, not yet. So
I remember, like, it's one of those things where they come out almost right before the sectionals start.
Yeah, so on Sunday was at least for us in Division 3 in the Northeast, we, chose our sectional locations. So those are done, but the brackets probably won't be out until next Thursday, I would say Thursday of next week.
And sectionals start that weekend, right? So not this
Saturday,
weekend, but next weekend, just for everyone to clarify. So they'll be kind of lined up right with boys basketball. If you're on a basketball schedule and you kind of know when those sectionals start, boys sectionals are going to start next Saturday. Girls start this Saturday. So wrestling will start right alongside the boys basketball. But what are some things that you went into deciding what sectional? What are some things that coaches are trying? I mean, are you watching what teams go where? What are some of the strategies and thoughts when you're trying to pick a sectional?
Yeah, there is a ton of strategy and a ton of thought that goes into it, at least with ours in the Northeast. The way it's done is every team from 1 to 57 is seeded based on a number of factors, how many weight classes you fill, and then the resumes of those wrestlers. And then it goes in reverse order of choosing where you go. And then if a team that is ranked higher or seeded higher than you wants into that sectional and you are the low man on the totem pole, you will get bumped to another sectional. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And there was a real different strategy this year because instead of us having 4 sectionals, we now have 5, with Waynedale picking up a sectional, and they are ranked 2nd or 3rd in the state as a team. They picked up a sectional in the Northeast District. So the difference there is those teams that now go to Waynedale from the Northeast District will actually go to a different district tournament. They're going to the East District in Coshocton. So it's the other 4 sectional teams that are going to the district tournament, and Waynedale and the other 10 teams with them will go to the East District. So you had a lot to think about this year as far as which district did you want to go to, how do you get into the district you want and not get bumped out, all kinds of things to think about like that. It was definitely interesting this year.
Which sectional did you guys find yourself falling into?
We're headed to Beechwood. This will be the first time we've headed to Beechwood. I heard they run a really great sectional tournament. I hear that their athletic director makes sure that things are run efficient. So we're headed there. It's a long haul for us. We got an hour and 45-minute drive, but that's okay. We're used to it. We're the most southern team in the district for every sport. We are the farthest south team. So with volleyball, we've had to go a couple of hours
Strongsville,
north.
right?
Strongsville
has to be like a 2-hour drive from you guys, right?
Yeah, it is. So the Wellsville as a school, we're used to doing those things. We would either be the most north team in the East or the most south team in the Northeast. So either way, we're going to get, no matter what district we were in, we're going to get a long drive to the postseason.
Do you do you know the other YSN teams in Division III where they fell and what their pairings are?
Yeah, I could pull that up for you. I know with us, it was, I believe, Grand Valley was the one team that I knew was from the YSN family here. Let me see here. I've got a list of everybody, and most teams just go back to where they're comfortable or where they've been, but you don't always get that chance if you get bumped out by someone else who is, at a higher seed. So at the Beechwood, it'll be us in Grand Valley. I think is Chagrin Falls in the YSN network? I don't believe
yet.
so. So those would just be us two there. At Berkshire, it's Pymatuning Valley, Garfield, Southeast, Jackson, Milton, Girard, South Range, all are in Berkshire. In Northwestern, is Chippewa YSN school?
No.
Okay, so then I don't think we have any there at that one. And at Rootstown, there are a bunch. East Palestine, Western Reserve, Southern Local, Columbiana, Mineral Ridge in Poland. And then at Waynedale will be Waterloo, Crestview, United, Liberty, Brookfield. Go to the Waynedale sectional. So those
Awesome.
those are the sectionals that each team picked, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the teams from the Northeast District do in the East District tournament. That'll be something everybody will be watching.
And it'll be like next week we will be closer to it, but we still probably won't have enough to solidifyly preview the sectional, because like we said, the brackets aren't really going to be done until probably the Thursday before sectional. So next week when we come on, but we'll have a really big understanding of where everyone falls, all the divisions. We'll be able to talk a little bit more about matchups that we could possibly see, because I'm sure when the teams are there, you kind of understand like there's only so many ways that could go. So many people you could say, or maybe exciting matchups, but we'll try to keep that kind of preview a little bit closer to relevancy next week, Gary. But for this week, what I want to talk about is just what's the next week look like for wrestling teams. I mean, you got this kind of gap where you're done now and you got a week before sectional start. Is it like we talked with Ella? Is it all about trying to get healthy? Is it about trying to sharpen yourself, trying to add some new things, or is it all wrestler by wrestler kind of determining that?
Well, I could just speak for, I can only speak for what we do. We definitely need to get healthy. And, there's been so much sickness that's gone around this year, at least in the wrestling world, with teams, really whole teams getting sick. I think flu type A really was bad in the area. So there are still people that I know of and teams that I know of, even just from this weekend at the Buck Bailey, who said they had guys missing because they were sick. So, getting more healthy from that, the nagging injuries that come. And then, like you said, sharpening up your skills. Now for us, we like these 2 weeks to be off so that we can fine tune things with each kid, see where maybe they need to improve on something, where we need to put our attention, and then focusing on those things with the team and individually with each kid. It gives you the time to do that. You don't have to worry about making weight this Saturday. You can focus on everything. Focus on the postseason. A lot of coaches say, "Hey, everything's a practice until sectionals." And if your ultimate goal is to get to the state tournament, place at the state tournament, or win the state tournament, that's the truth. So having that information from the season, having the results of your matches, the things that you've done to see where you are and where to get better, this is a great time to do it.
For those wrestlers that are trying to get healthy, how do you kind of balance that with, like, obviously you're not just going to take days off and just waste days. What do you work on? What are you doing while you're trying to get healthy to still better yourself and get yourself ready for tournament?
Well, you throughout the season, you've assuming you're like most teams, you've gone hard in the practice room. You've done a lot of live wrestling, done a lot of really hard drilling. If you've got kids that are banged up, there's nothing wrong with the practices not being a total complete grind like they are during the middle of the season. So really, it's focusing on a lot more positioning, how to finish in certain places, how to defend in certain moves. And the time is spent with the coaches one-on-one or one with a small group, rather than working on your conditioning or working on grinding through a lot of live wrestling to get in shape. Because in theory, you're in shape now, and you should be ready at this point to go for the postseason. So now, like I said, you're not worrying about going through that regular wrestling, really dog days to get you ready for the postseason, because you should already be there.
How much does film study come into a factor in the next 2 weeks? Obviously you don't know your opponent, so you can't watch film on who you're wrestling, but watching your own film and being able to break down maybe some of the things that you are doing wrong, you can do that with film study instead of, like you said, if you need to get healthy, you can just point out stuff on the film and say, here's this, here's this, here's this. How much does that kind of play a factor in coaching in the next, especially for you personally, in coaching in the next few weeks? How much do you use film study getting ready for sectionals?
For me personally, I use it off and on. It just depends. Usually I don't have to really watch, because I watched all the matches live and I take mental notes of things. And so do the other coaches. And I've got a big staff this year, so all of us are watching. We take notes during the matches, for each kid, what to focus on. And then we go through those things during the week. And if we see things that, several of the kids are doing, we know that there's something that we haven't focused on as coaches in the room that we need to point out. But film definitely comes into play. There are even apps out there that you can buy memberships to, where you can record every single match for your wrestlers, and they'll put them into your own little database of matches to go back and rewatch. We've never done that. I've never felt the need to, but we definitely have things on film, that we will look at. But like I said, this year, with so many coaches helping me, the notes that we take, we usually go from there to really focus things in practice.
All right, Gary, before we get out of here for Wrestling Wednesday, I guess the last question I have, because you asked Ella this. I mean, you asked her to kind of put her coaches on blast and see if she took down anybody. I mean, does anyone take you down? I mean, do you have wrestlers that get the best of you, Mr. Gary?
Listen, I have young coaches in my room. I let them take care of those things most of the time. I am much more seasoned in my time on earth, and that's what I'll leave it at. So they get most of the live time. They get a lot more live time with the kids than I do. So I just let them go ahead and do those things. But there's a couple of kids who've took down a couple coaches, and they don't hear the end of it. So Ella talking about taking down Coach Beadle, I'm sure he's heard about that several times this year. And hey, it happens. You wrestle somebody enough, it's going to happen.
How much do your wrestlers kind of egg you on and try to get you into those situations, even though you don't, like you said, you let the younger coaches do that? But I'm sure your wrestlers try their darndest to try to see if you would do it.
I mean, I still wrestle a little bit with them, but They usually are more with the younger. They egg on the younger guys a lot
Okay.
more. They are, closer in age to those guys, and I'm more like their dad's age. So, and I don't think that they feel the need to challenge me like they do with the younger guys in the room.
They just know not to mess with
That's
the G, right? Don't mess.
yeah.
Gary,
I can
what
fool
a
myself and say that.
what a great week it was here in wrestling. Once again, congratulations on a successful Buck Bailey. I know how much that means to you in the program. Wrestling Wednesday, thank you to Ella Thomas for coming on and giving us her time to talk about it. And we're going to actually wrap up this show with Wrestling Wednesday today. DJ and I will be back tomorrow with Todd Johnson, the head coach of the boys basketball program at Columbiana. He'll be live on the show, so you don't want to miss that. But before we wrap this up, just a couple of house cleaning tips. We do have basketball on the network tonight, so make sure to tune into that, ysnlive.com/live. I'm going to break down the matchups that we have on the network so you know who will be covering tonight and what announcers you can expect to be out there on today, which is February 12th. We have a couple of girls matchups still in regular season action. No, these are actually tournaments. I'm sorry. Tournament sectional, right? They're regular season. I'm sorry. Struthers at Cheney, and then Perry going to go to Edgewood. Those will both be on the network tonight. The Cheney game is going to be at 6:15. Perry and Edgewood will be at 7 o'clock. Boys basketball tonight, we have Ty Bartell. He'll be at Valley Christian as Heartland Christian comes into town. Dakota Kotzel, he'll be at Mineral Ridge. It's senior night for the Rams. They host Wyndham. And then Chris Colucci will be at South Range for their boys basketball matchup with Grand Valley. That is a kind of a last-second add-on for South Range. They lost their matchup with Louisville. Unfortunately, they just could not make that up. Both schedules just couldn't work together. So they have picked up Grand Valley coming into South Range. It's a really good Grand Valley team having a great season on their boys' side. So that should be a fun one. Chris Colucci taking the step for DJ today at the Thriller Dome, which we saw on Monday, lives up to its name, absolutely. And then we do have a couple of Westminster matchups tonight. So those will be on as well if you're a Westminster Titans fan. Women's basketball at 6 versus Geneva. Men's basketball right after against Geneva as well. Brought to you by the team down there at Westminster doing great things. So those are the matchups for you today on the basketball side of things. Once again, ysnlive.com/live is where you can find them. Our show, YSN Live, will be back tomorrow with me and DJ. We'll have live on the show Todd Johnson, the head coach of the Columbiana Clippers. For Anthony Hartwig, Gary Altizer, we thank you so much for tuning in today. And man, we'll be back. Well, we'll be back tomorrow, but me and Gary will be back next week for Wrestling Wednesday again with more tournament talk and more in-depth tournament talk next week. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network. For stories, stats, and more, go to ysnlive.com.